us right now via Skype from Washington, D.C. is Congressman Joe Crowley. Joe, nice to have you with us on In the District.
Thank you, Gary. Always good to be with you on your show.
Thank you very much. Let's just talk about the campaign. Tell me why you think you deserve the vote of people to re-elect you to the Congress of the United States of America.
Well, I think, Gary, now more than ever, I think what my constituents need here in Washington is a person who has experience, but also a proven record of leadership, being elected now to the House Democratic leadership, being in a position of authority here in Washington. When I say something, it matters. People are listening to that. And I think that now more than ever, given that this man, Donald Trump, is in the White House, we need someone from New York who's able to speak that language and stand up to him. And I think that's what I bring with that, years of experience to do that.
Let's talk a little bit about this idea of, because your opponent has been saying, well, he's running against Trump and all that kind of thing, as opposed to, you know, running for our people in the Bronx, and you know, you've got a credible opponent. Talk to me about this notion of what you just said, is that you're running to fight Donald Trump.
Well, I actually think, Gary, there's very little daylight between my opponent and I when it comes to the major issues confronting Democratic voters. I do think that Donald Trump is an existential threat to our nation and to my constituency. Almost on a daily basis, Donald Trump is attacking my constituents. And so I do look at this as really a campaign for who is best to stand up to this administration, to speak out and to be heard when it comes to those who are being attacked, like immigrants, like women and their freedoms, like what he's done to healthcare and those who are struggling every day. Where there is some difference between my opponent and I, you know, I was a strong supporter of the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, and I know my opponent has some. Ms. Ocasio-Cortez has some issues with Obamacare, but I stood shoulder to shoulder with Barack Obama in shepherding that bill through the House of Representatives. And today, Gary, 131,000 of my constituents who didn't have access to affordable health care now do. But that's, you know, what we're really threatened with this president now, that 300,000 of my constituents are under threat of having their health care become too expensive because of what this president has done to destabilize the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. I'm very proud of that record and I'm willing to take it to my constituents.
Some people, and your opponent as well, are saying, you know what, this is the old guard Democratic Party. They haven't been visible enough. They haven't stood up enough. And of course, they were defeated in 2016 by really a Republican overhaul, and that maybe it's time for a new look to the Democratic Party. Presumably, you don't agree with that theory. Talk to me about what you think you have brought to the table that constituents in the Bronx would really appreciate.
Well, I think one thing my constituents in Bronx understand is I've delivered for them when it comes to constituent services and when it comes to really bringing New York to Washington, D.C. I'm known as the guy in Washington as the guy from New York. I wear it on my sleeve every day, and I'm very proud of that. But, you know, when it comes to delivering for my constituency, I like to talk about Edgar Garzón and his family, the Garzón family. Edgar Garzón was brutally murdered in my district because he was a gay man. I stood for his family. I stood for his mother and father who were attempting to listen through them. And when he died, their application for a green card ended with them. And my office successfully was able to continue that journey for the Garzón family. And today, Mr. Garzón passed away, but he did become an American citizen. I was there for that. I also helped keep their home in Jackson Heights. Those are the kinds of things that my office and that I've done personally to help my constituents. And I think my constituents know that. They also know that I'm fighting every day in Washington on their behalf. And that's why I think they'll send me back to Washington.
Housing is a very big issue. Public housing, of course, a big issue. Ben Carson on the Republican side has, they've talked about cutting funding. I think at one point he said, you know what, if they're complaining about conditions, go fix it yourself. Talk to me about high rents, the cost of rents, and housing in the borough of the Bronx. I know the district has Queens, but you know we're pretty circled around the BX right here.
It's both. And I think for both Queens and the Bronx, there's no question that the cost of housing has gone up exponentially. And we've seen that especially because of I think, a lot of move from Manhattan to Brooklyn, now Brooklyn to Queens, and Queens and Brooklyn to Bronx. Now we're even seeing that the cost of rent is going up. And that's why I have a Rent Relief Act that I've sponsored in the House of Representatives that would give a tax benefit to renters, much like we give to home ownership. And I think it's great that we've given homeowners that tax cut, that tax break to incentivize it. But we need to do something for our renters. In my district, Gary, too many people already are or are becoming rent burdened. That means that they're spending more than a third of their income on rent. And that simply is not sustainable, given we see the increase right now. Whatever benefit they got from this tax break that the president says he gave them, it's been swallowed up in rent. It's been swallowed up in the price of gasoline. It's been swallowed up in the price of milk. The average price for a gallon of milk in the country is $2.89 a gallon. In New York, it's over $4 a gallon. So, they're really having to make a decision between can I pay my rent? Can I get the proper food? And can I afford energy to get around the city? I think that's what my constituents, the Bronx, are struggling with. And I believe my bill, if it became law, would certainly help in that vein.
You know as well as I know, and we read all the newspapers, your name is being mentioned as a potential successor to Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House. Is that something you think voters should have in their minds? Oh, good, I may be voting for somebody who would be the Speaker of the House. Or do you think it's something, you know what, let's put it aside. It's not really relevant right now. Maybe it'll happen. And if it does happen, will it benefit constituents, or will it make you, frankly, distracted from the district and, of course, having to deal with larger and national issues?
Gary, I will say this. I'm running to become, once again, the congressman representing the 14th Congressional District. It's not about me. It's about my constituents. It's about their daily grinds. It's about them making ends meet. I think one of the things about me is my ability to have empathy, unlike our president. I can try to put myself in other people's shoes and feel like I make attempts to do that. It's not about my aspirations, about what happens. I do believe that I've risen through the ranks of the House leadership because my colleagues recognize in me the leadership of what it takes to be a leader within the party. But my focus now, in the past, now, and in the future will be about representing the people of the 14th Congressional District the best that I can. They're who comes first. They've always come first in my decision making.
It would be hard to talk to a representative in the House of Representatives in this day and age and right now and not ask about the immigration policy that has riled the nation on both sides of the aisle. What's the resolve? And because, the president and others, of course, and pundits are all saying it's up to Congress to solve it. Can you solve it? What would be a path to solving it that would be acceptable to you?
What would be acceptable to me is if the president stopped the policy that he implemented himself, and that is tearing children from the arms of their mothers and fathers at our nation's border. Gary, I've been outspoken on this from the very, very beginning of the start. There is a number of speeches that I made on the House floor that have gone viral because it's something that touches my soul. I'm the son of immigrants and the grandson of immigrants. And I believe very fervently that this nation is a nation of immigrants. How we treat our immigrants, how we treat the least amongst us is reflective of who we are. And I believe that this will be a stain and a scar, not only on the lives of these children and on these families, but on America, what our president has done. This is solely and squarely as a result of a policy that Donald Trump implemented to deter people from coming to the border. It's inhumane, it's psychological torture. And right now, even this executive order that's gone through, it's not clear yet as to how the people who have been separated, how they will be reunited. So if moving forward, they no longer separate families at the border, that's a good thing. But we need to know what they're doing with the families that have already been separated. And until that is resolved, this president has absolutely no credibility when it comes to the issue of immigration. He's been taking hostages. First, he took the DACA recipients. Then he took those on temporary protective status, like Haiti, and as well as parts of Central America and El Salvador. There's 250,000 El Salvadorians in this country that are being told they have to leave within less than a year and a half. And now he's taking these families and separating them. It's another form of hostage taking for him to get his wall. And I will not support a wall for Donald Trump, a campaign promise he never should have made.
You would not make that trade. In essence, he's suggested, if not outright said it, it would be a trade. I'll back off those other things if you fund my wall. You wouldn't fall for that.
What he's doing in holding these individuals hostage is immoral. You cannot, I don't believe we can negotiate from an immoral position. That's an immoral position he's holding. It's not a position of leverage. He's actually using people's lives to leverage. You can't do that.
Congressman, we're essentially out of time. We wish you good luck the rest of the campaign. Certainly good luck in Washington, D.C. And we hope to see you in the Bronx sometime soon. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, my friend.
Okay, we will be right back with more. Don't go away.